Now, any US presidential election is bound to divide people, but it seems the country is more polarised than ever in 2020. From Black Lives Matter to the abortion debate, very few voters are undecided. Many fear that the results of this election could spark unrest and even violence. Our reporter Andy Rosejan reports from the US Midwest.
How deep is America's divide right now? Consider the simple campaign yard sign. Police departments all over the country say they've never seen so many campaign yard signs stolen so far out from Election Day.
So I made a sign and put on it, "Stop stealing our sign because it's a crime."
You have two parties that hate each other so much that they can't put the country in front of themselves.
From yard signs to Black Lives Matter, to the abortion debate, and now the coronavirus, it seems no one can decide how we got so divided.
It's something that's happened little by little. I think we all have a deep story inside of us, and each party has spoken to that deep story.
Gerrymandering's a big part of it.
Gerrymandering is the power that state lawmakers have to redraw state congressional districts to virtually ensure that their party stays in power in those districts.
Where people don't have to compete against each other, it's competing against the far outliers of their party, so there's no common ground. It's just, you got to be the loudest.
Here in Michigan, they're one of 14 states where government is divided. One party controls the governor's office, the other party controls the state legislature. In Wisconsin, for example, the Democratic governor ordered a lockdown in March. 2 months later, Republicans, who control the legislature, managed to get that order tossed out, and immediately bars and restaurants filled up with maskless customers. Then the governor ordered bars and restaurants to limit their capacity to 25%, but Republicans got that order tossed out. And the governor ordered a statewide mask mandate. Republicans are still going to court to try to get that order tossed out. And that local division plays right up to the race between Donald Trump and Joe Biden.
There are very few probably undecided voters right now. The Venn diagram of the overlap of Biden and Trump doesn't exist. So you're either for him or you're against him.
It's got to take somebody special to come along to try and unite people together. I don't know if we've got that right now.
But remember those yard signs? The people who keep having theirs stolen think it's not a good sign of the times.
There's violence before the election. There's liable to be violence after the election.
Too frightening to think of the divisiveness.
Andy Rosejan, Euronews, Racine, Wisconsin.
Let's cross now to our reporter Ray Suarez, who's standing by in the American capital. Good evening to you, Ray. Divisions in US politics aren't anything new, but what's your assessment? Is this the worst that you've ever seen it?
I've been covering presidential elections since 1980. I've been covering Washington politics for more than 25 years. This is as bad as I've ever seen it. I think you'd have to go back to the high cry of the Watergate scandal that ended the presidency of Richard Nixon, that happened in the closing days of the Vietnam War, to arrive at a time when Americans were sort of at drawn daggers with each other in quite this way. The hostility, the heat of the campaign. The President of the United States has called his opponent a criminal, and Joe Biden is giving as good as he gets. He's called the president a clown and a liar and a racist. President Trump has called Kamala Harris, the Democratic vice presidential nominee, a monster. It really is now off the chain. It's in uncharted territory with just a week to go.
Ray, new polls suggest that the historically safe seats for US President Donald Trump, such as Texas and Georgia, he is trailing in those areas. How big a threat would it be if Trump ended up losing those two states?
In the calculus that goes into choosing the American president, Donald Trump has very few paths to victory, while Joe Biden, on the other hand, has many different combinations of states he can win and become the next American president. So if Donald Trump were to lose one state in the early poll closings, early in the evening, United States time, Florida, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Texas, it's pretty much all over. There's very few ways the current president can keep his seat if he loses one of those hinge point states, while Joe Biden can lose them all and still win the election.
Ray Suarez joining us there from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much indeed.